High Arbiter Quelix of the Galactic Council stood at his elevated podium, all 7 of his eye stalks quivering with barely contained glee. This was his favorite part of the job, the sentencing. The Council, he announced in a voice that echoed through the chamber like a funeral bell, has reached a verdict. In the defendant's box stood 3 humans, looking significantly less concerned than Quelix would have preferred. The tall one, Captain Jake Reeves, according to the file, was actually leaning against the railing like he was waiting for a bus. The stocky one with the magnificent beard, Engineer Dmitry Volkov, seemed to be calculating something on his fingers. And the short one with the bright purple hair, Medic Luna Park, was examining her fingernails. Quelix cleared his 17 throat sacs. For the crimes of unauthorized cargo transportation, violation of 14 customs regulations, and the illegal smuggling of Centauri whiskey. It was really good whiskey, though, Jake interrupted. Silence. Quelix's eye stalks turned a satisfying shade of crimson. You are hereby sentenced to permanent exile on Karzeth 9. That got their attention. Sort of. Luna looked up. Dmitry stopped counting on his fingers. Jake just raised an eyebrow. Karzeth 9, Quelix continued, warming to his subject, known throughout civilized space as the Widowmaker. A planet so hostile that even our most hardened criminals last, on average, 73 hours before succumbing to its many, many deadly features. He pulled up a holographic display, and oh, how he loved this part. Observe. Acid rain that can strip flesh from bone. Predatory flora, with digestive enzymes powerful enough to dissolve titanium. Atmospheric lightning storms that strike an average of 40 times per hour. Toxic gas vents that release compounds lethal to 97% of known species. Carnivorous megafauna with a hunger that, is there Wi-Fi? Luna asked. Quelix's eye stalks actually tied themselves in a knot. What? Wi-Fi. Internet. You know, cat videos, social media, that sort of thing. You are being sentenced to death? Quelix sputtered. A slow, agonizing death on the most hostile world in this sector of the galaxy. And you want to know about communication networks? Jake shrugged. Just seems like important information. Quelix took a deep breath through his primary respiratory sphincter. Stay professional. This was going in his memoir. You will be provided with basic survival packs, water purification tablets, ration bars, and emergency shelters. Nothing more. The planet will do the rest. He leaned forward, eye stalks gleaming with malicious satisfaction. I estimate you have perhaps 3 days. 4 if you are extraordinarily lucky. The Council will retrieve your remains in 6 months for proper documentation. Dmitry finally spoke, his thick accent making the translator work overtime. So what you are saying is, we get 6 months vacation on remote planet, no rent, no bills, no council bureaucrats bothering us? It is not a vacation, it is a death sentence. Dmitry shrugged. I have had worse apartments. Luna nodded enthusiastically. Remember that place on Titan 7, with the mold? And the rats, Jake added. They were not rats. They were Glarbian sewer serpents. Still had rat energy, though. Quelix slammed his gavel appendage on the podium 17 times. Enough. Guards, remove these criminals from my sight. Let Karzeth 9 teach them the respect they failed to show this council. As the guards escorted them out, Quelix heard Jake say, Hey, look on the bright side, guys. At least the weather will be interesting. Luna laughed. And no extradition treaties. Is true, Dmitry agreed cheerfully. Is like witness protection program, but with more acid rain. Quelix watched them go, his satisfaction dampened only slightly by their bizarre lack of terror. No matter, Karzeth 9 had humbled far more arrogant beings than these soft-skinned mammals. In 3 days, maybe 4, they would be nothing but a cautionary tale and a footnote in his very impressive conviction record. He was already composing the epitaph in his head. Here lies humanity's hubris, dissolved by acid rain on Karzeth 9. It had a nice ring to it. The dropship didn't so much land as it did spit them out like a disgusted cat ejecting a hairball. Jake hit the ground first, rolled, and came up with a mouthful of dirt that tasted vaguely like copper and regret. Luna landed on her feet because of course she did. The woman had done parkour on 3 different planets with varying gravity. Dmitry simply fell flat on his back with a grunt that suggested this was not his first unceremonious planetary deportation. The ship's engines screamed back to life before they'd even stood up, and within seconds, it was a disappearing speck in the angry purple sky. Well, Jake said, spitting out more dirt, that was rude. Luna was already scanning their surroundings with the kind of enthusiasm that made Jake wonder if she'd heard the part about the Death Planet thing. Oh wow, look at that cloud formation. Is that normal for thunder cracked overhead, and a bolt of lightning struck a rock formation maybe 200 meters away? The rock exploded into molten slag. Huh, Dmitri observed. Dramatic. Jake checked his survival pack, which contained exactly what Quelix had promised. Water purification tablets, ration bars that probably tasted like compressed sadness, and an emergency shelter that folded out to the size of a coffin. Subtle, Council. Real subtle. Okay, team, he said, defaulting to captain mode because someone had to. The rain hit like liquid anger, and Jake's first thought was that Quelix hadn't been exaggerating about the acid part. His second thought was that it wasn't actually that bad. It stung. Sure, like getting slapped by a sunburned jellyfish, but his skin wasn't melting off. More like the universe's most aggressive exfoliation treatment. Into the cave, Dmitri bellowed, pointing at an overhang in the nearby cliff face. They sprinted for it, dodging lightning strikes that seemed to have a personal vendetta against their general direction. Luna whooped like she was on a roller coaster. Jake made a mental note to check if she'd hit her head during landing. The cave was mercifully dry and surprisingly spacious. They collapsed inside, panting and dripping with acid rain that was already making their clothes smoke slightly. Everyone still have their skin? Jake asked. Mostly, Luna said cheerfully, examining her arm. Minor irritation. pH is probably around 3, maybe 4. Dilute sulfuric acid mix would be my guess. Unpleasant but not immediately lethal if you limit exposure. Is like bad swimming pool, Dmitri agreed, wringing out his beard. Water well. Acid splattered on the cave floor with a hiss. Jake was about to respond when something in the shadows of the cave moved. They froze. A plant, at least Jake assumed it was a plant unfurled from the darkness. It was about the size of a German shepherd, with thick ropey vines covered in what looked like pulsing suction cups, and a central bulb that opened to reveal rings of crystalline teeth. The predatory flora Quelix had mentioned with such glee. It lunged. Dmitri, operating on pure instinct, punched it. The plant made a sound like a squeaky toy being strangled and retreated into its bulb. Everyone stared at Dmitri's fist, which was covered in sticky plant juice. Did you just… Jake started. It came at me, Dmitri said defensively. What was I supposed to do? Let it eat me? Luna crept forward, grabbed the dazed plant, and yanked it out of the ground with surprising force. The thing writhed in her grip, trying to bite her, but she held it at arm's length like a misbehaving puppy. Fascinating. The teeth are silicon-based, and this sap, she sniffed it. High glucose content. Dmitri, do you still have that lighter? Luna, no, Jake said. Luna, yes, she replied, and 30 seconds later they had discovered that predatory alien plants were, in fact, flammable and surprisingly aromatic when cooked. Dmitri took an experimental bite of the roasted plant matter, chewed thoughtfully, took another bite. Is not bad, he announced. Tastes like asparagus and chicken, mostly asparagus, little bit of chicken. Luna tried some. Oh yeah, definitely edible. High protein content too, based on the texture. Jake looked at his crew soaking wet from acid rain, casually eating a plant that was supposed to eat them, sheltering in a cave on a death planet like it was a camping trip gone slightly wrong. You know what? He said, pulling out his emergency rations. Forget these nutrition bars. Pass me some of that murder plant. Outside, the lightning continued its angry percussion solo against the landscape, and the acid rain hissed, its displeasure at the rocks. Somewhere in the distance, something roared, probably the carnivorous megafauna Quelix had mentioned. Jake took a bite of the roasted plant. It really did taste like chicken. Guys, he said slowly, I think we might actually be okay here. 3 months later, Jake stood on what he'd generously started calling the porch of their settlement and sipped his morning coffee. Well, coffee-adjacent beverage made from roasted cave lichen, but it had caffeine and that was close enough. The view was actually pretty spectacular once you stopped expecting it to kill you. The acid rain had become routine. They'd learned it followed a predictable pattern, roughly every 8 hours, lasting about 40 minutes. They'd built a collection system that funneled the rain into purification tanks Dmitri had cobbled together from their dropship debris and some remarkably durable local stone. Turn out, when you neutralize the acid, you get perfectly drinkable water. Chemistry. Who knew? Morning, boss, Luna called from the garden. The garden, on the death planet. She was wearing a wide-brimmed hat made from cured megafauna hide and tending to rows of earth vegetables they'd managed to grow using composted murder plants as fertilizer. The local soil was apparently incredibly nutrient-rich, probably from all the dissolved organic matter. Everything grew like it was on steroids. "How are the tomatoes?" Jake asked. "Aggressive. I think they're absorbing some properties from the local flora. This one tried to bite me." She held up a tomato the size of a softball with what looked disturbingly like tiny teeth marks. "But they taste amazing, so I'm calling it a win." A howl echoed across the valley, and 6 shapes came loping toward the settlement. Jake didn't even flinch anymore. Those were Dimitri's puppies, 6-legged predators the size of bears that Quelix's files had labeled as apex carnivores with extreme territorial aggression. Dimitri had named them Monday through Saturday and fed them scraps. Now they followed him around like loyal dogs, albeit dogs that could rip through steel plating. "Good boys," Dimitri bellowed from the workshop, emerging with what looked like a lightning rod made from scavenged metal and crystallized plant teeth. "Who wants breakfast?" "Yes, is all of you." The megafauna Jake had started calling them thunderwolves because it sounded cooler, wagged their multiple tails, and sat obediently while Dimitri tossed them chunks of meat. They discovered that the local ecosystem was full of herbivores that tasted like a cross between beef and venison. The thunderwolves were excellent hunting partners. "The power grid is complete," Dimitri announced proudly, hefting his lightning rod. "Watch this." He planted the rod in the designated spot just as the afternoon lightning storm rolled in. Right on schedule, the storms were as predictable as the rain. A bolt struck the rod with a crack that made Jake's teeth itch, and the lights in their settlement flickered on. Actual electric lights. "We have power," Dimitri shouted over the thunder. "And only minor risk of electrocution." "That's the spirit," Jake muttered. The settlement had grown beyond their wildest expectations. They'd built 3 permanent structures using local stone that was nearly indestructible once you shaped it, which you could do when it was still soft from acid rain exposure. The main house had separate quarters for each of them, a common area, and what Luna insisted on calling the laboratory, where she conducted experiments on local biology. The workshop was Dimitri's kingdom, full of salvage tech, improvised tools, and at least 4 projects Jake didn't understand, but assumed were either brilliant or would explode eventually. Maybe both. And then there was Jake's pride and joy, the observation deck. He'd built it on the highest point of their settlement, with a clear view of the valleys below and the angry, purple sky above. It was here that he'd started documenting everything. "Captain's log, day 92, he said into his repaired communicator, which he'd turned into a recording device. The council called this place the Widowmaker. "I'm starting to think they never actually sent anyone here who knew what they were doing." He panned the camera across their settlement. "The acid rain? Free water source and the best cleaning solution you've ever seen. Those toxic gas vents? Hydrogen sulfide. Stinks to high heaven, but we've rerouted them away from the settlement. Turns out if you're not an idiot about it, they're harmless." A thunderwolf wandered into frame and licked the camera. "The deadly megafauna have become pets. The predatory plants are delicious. The lightning storms power our entire operation." Jake zoomed in on Luna's garden. "We're growing vegetables. We have electricity. Dimitri built a shower that uses geothermal heating from the volcanic vents Quelix forgot to mention, because apparently they're not deadly enough." He turned the camera back to himself. "You know what the most dangerous thing on this planet is? Boredom. We've been here 3 months, and the biggest challenge is figuring out what to do with all our free time." Luna appeared next to him holding a plate. "I made lunch. Grilled thunderbeast with roasted murder plant and those spicy tubers we found by the ravine." Jake took a bite for the camera. "And the food is incredible. 5 stars. Would die here again." That gave him an idea. "Hey Luna, you still have that graphic design background? From my colony ship days?" "Yeah, why?" Jake grinned, the kind of grin that had gotten them arrested in the first place. "How do you feel about making a tourist brochure?" Dimitri emerged from the workshop covered in grease and looking far too pleased with himself. "I have fixed the long-range transmitter. Can now send messages anywhere in sector." "Perfect timing," Jake said. "Because I think it's time. We let the council know how their death sentence is working out." That evening, as the 3 of them sat around their geothermal-powered heating unit, enjoying coffee-ish beverages and watching the lightning storm put on its nightly show, Jake reflected on how weird life had gotten. They'd been sentenced to die on the most hostile planet in the sector. Instead, they'd built a home, a strange, Dangerous, occasionally trying to kill them home, but a home nonetheless. You know, Luna said thoughtfully, I think this might be the best thing that ever happened to us. Is definitely better than Glarbian prison, Dimitri agreed. That place had terrible ventilation. Jake raised his cup. To Karzeth 9, the galaxy's worst death sentence, and our best retirement plan. They clinked cups as lightning painted the sky in shades of electric blue, and the Thunderwolves howled their approval at the storm. Somewhere, several hundred light-years away, High Arbiter Quelix was probably sleeping soundly, confident in his righteous judgment. Jake couldn't wait to ruin his morning. Jake had always considered himself a decent writer. But this was his masterpiece. Read it again, Luna said, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. Jake cleared his throat dramatically and held up the datapad. Welcome to Karzeth 9, the Widowmaker, where death takes a holiday. Dimitri snorted coffee out his nose. Tired of boring, safe planets where nothing tries to kill you. Exhausted by predictable weather and non-lethal flora. Come to Karzeth 9, where every day is an adventure and survival is its own reward. The brochure had taken them 2 weeks to perfect. Luna had designed it with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for actual vacation destinations. Bright colors, excited fonts, and photographs of their settlement that made it look like an extreme sports resort. Which, Jake supposed, it kind of was. My favorite part is the amenities section, Luna said. Jake scrolled down. Amenities include free natural exfoliation treatments via acid rain better than any spa. Unlimited fresh water, once properly processed. Organic, locally sourced cuisine featuring exotic proteins and vegetables you cannot find anywhere else in the galaxy. Spectacular lightning shows nightly, no ticket required. Complimentary wildlife encounters with our friendly Thunderwolf population. You made Death Planet sound like luxury resort, Dimitri observed admiringly. That's because it basically is, Jake said. For humans, anyway. The testimonials section was his personal favorite. They'd written them in character. I came to Karzeth 9 expecting to die. Instead, I discovered the best barbecue in the galaxy. Luna Park, medic and master chef. The atmospheric lightning provides excellent sustainable energy. Also is very pretty. Dmitry Volkov, engineer and Thunderwolf enthusiast, 5 stars. Would get exiled again. Jake Reeves, settlement founder and tour guide Luna, had even created a rating system. Activities. Extreme gardening, lightning surfing, she made that up. Megafauna taming, acid rain dancing, and volcanic vent sauna experiences. What is lightning surfing? Dimitri asked. I don't know, but it sounds cool and we can figure it out if anyone asks. Jake had included a safety section, because he wasn't completely irresponsible. Karzeth 9 Adventures recommends basic survival skills, a sense of humor, and the ability to adapt quickly. Not recommended for species with acid sensitivity, extreme risk aversion, or sticks up their posteriors. Looking at you, Galactic Council. You actually wrote that last part, Luna said. I did, and I'm keeping it. The pricing section was purely theoretical but hilarious. Exile sentences, free, courtesy of short-sighted bureaucrats. Voluntary visits, contact us for rates, group discounts available. Wedding packages coming soon because apparently people want to get married on death planets now. And honestly, the lightning makes for great photos. But the crown jewel, the piece of resistance, was the photo gallery. Luna had captured everything. The settlement at sunset with lightning painting the sky purple and gold. Dimitri's Thunderwolves lounging adorably in the sun. The lush garden growing vegetables that would make any agriculturalist weep with envy. And a perfectly plated meal that looked like something from a 5-star restaurant. There was even an action shot of Jake doing a thumbs up in front of an active acid rainstorm, wearing a poncho made from cured megafauna hide with the caption, "The weather is fine once you stop being dramatic about it." The question is, Luna said, do we actually send this? Jake looked at his crew. They'd survived. More than survived, they'd thrived on a planet that was supposed to kill them in 3 days. The Galactic Council had dumped them here as punishment, expecting them to become cautionary tales. Instead, they'd built something actually remarkable. Oh, we're absolutely sending this, Jake said. Dimitri, is the transmitter ready? Is ready. Can broadcast on all council frequencies, all news networks, all public channels. Will reach every corner of sector in approximately 6 hours. Perfect. Jake made a few final edits to the brochure, adding one last section. Special message to High Arbiter Quelix. Thank you for the extended vacation. The accommodations exceeded expectations. Please send more humans. We are considering expansion and could use the workforce. Also, your face when you read this will be comedy gold. Sincerely, the Karzeth 9 survivors. Luna pulled up the broadcast interface. Last chance to chicken out. Since when do we chicken out? Jake hit the send button. The transmitter hummed to life in Dimitri's workshop, and somewhere in the ether of space, their message began bouncing from relay to relay, spreading across communication networks like the galaxy's best inside joke. How long do you think before the council responds? Luna asked. Oh, I give it maybe 12 hours before Quellix's head explodes, Jake said. Metaphorically. Probably. They sat on the porch with their evening beverages, watching the sunset paint the toxic clouds in shades of orange and pink. A Thunderwolf Thursday, if Jake wasn't mistaken, wandered over and flopped down at Dimitri's feet with a contented rumble. You know they are going to come check, Dimitri said, to see if we are lying or crazy or both. Good, Jake replied. Let them come. We'll give them the grand tour. Should we charge admission? Luna wondered. Absolutely, we should charge admission. Somewhere, racing through subspace channels, their tourist brochure was arriving in the inboxes of bureaucrats, news outlets, and curious citizens across multiple systems. The death planet Karzeth 9, terror of the Galactic Council's penal system, was now advertising timeshare opportunities and guided tours. Jake imagined Quellix opening the message, his eye stalks, slowly processing the images of 3 humans, not just alive but thriving. The settlement, the gardens, the ratings and reviews, the casual tone of people who just turned his ultimate punishment into an extended vacation. I hope he chokes on his morning meal, Jake said cheerfully. It's bad to wish harm on council members, Dimitri said. You're right. I hope he chokes only a little bit. Just enough to be embarrassing in front of his colleagues. Luna raised her cup. To false advertising. Turns out death planets are only deadly if you're bad at improvising. To the council's complete lack of imagination, Jake added. To humans, Dimitri finished, who are too stupid to know when they are supposed to die. They drank to that as the lightning began its evening performance, and the first stars appeared between the toxic clouds. In the distance, something roared. But it was probably just Friday looking for dinner. The tourist brochure was out there now, spreading chaos through official channels and making bureaucrats question their entire approach to penal colonies. Jake couldn't wait for the inspection team to arrive. This was going to be hilarious. The council inspection ship arrived exactly 47 days after the broadcast, which Jake felt showed admirable restraint on their part. He'd expected them within a week. They are landing, Dimitri announced from his improvised radar system, which was basically 3 lightning rods and a prayer but somehow worked perfectly. Standard council diplomatic vessel, probably 6, maybe 7 occupants. Places everyone, Jake called out. Luna, is the welcome sign ready? Oh, it's ready. They'd spent the last month preparing for this moment with the kind of dedication usually reserved for actual businesses. Which, technically, they were now. The sign Luna had painted read, Welcome to Karzeth 9 Extreme Adventures, where death takes a holiday, in bright, cheerful letters. She'd added little drawings of thunderwolves and lightning bolts around the edges. The ship touched down at the designated landing pad, really just a flat area they'd cleared and marked with stones, and Jake couldn't help but notice it landed very carefully, as if expecting the ground itself to be hostile. To be fair, reasonable assumption. The airlock hissed open and out stepped a Thexian bureaucrat, whose name tag identified him as Inspector Tivix. He had the kind of face that suggested he'd never smiled in his life and considered joy a waste of company time. Behind him came a security detail of 4 armed guards and a technician clutching recording equipment like a lifeline. Tivix looked around, his 3 eyes widening as he took in the settlement. The permanent structures, the garden, the actual porch with furniture, the thunderwolves lounging in the afternoon sun like oversized house cats. What, he said slowly, is this? Welcome to Karzeth 9, Jake said, striding forward with his biggest smile and a hand extended for better. Shaking, Tivix stared at it like Jake was offering him a live grenade. You must be the inspection team. We've been expecting you. Can I offer you some refreshments? We have coffee, water, and a local fruit juice that'll knock your socks off, assuming you wear socks. Do Thexians wear socks? This is impossible, Tivix said, ignoring the question. High Arbiter Quellix assured us that you should be dead. All of you. The files clearly state that Karzeth 9 is lethal to carbon-based life forms within 73 hours. Yeah, about that, Luna said, appearing with a tray of drinks and what looked suspiciously like cookies. Turns out the files were written by people who never actually tried living here. Would you like a cookie? They're made with local grain and murder plant seeds. Sounds scary. Tastes delicious. One of the security guards accepted a cookie, then immediately took another one. This is a violation of Tivix. Consulted his datapad with increasing desperation. Multiple penal codes. The sentence was exile until death. You cannot simply thrive in exile. It defeats the entire purpose of punishment. It's not our fault. Your punishment is terrible, Dmitri said, emerging from the workshop with Thursday at his heels. The Thunderwolf, sensing new people, bounded over to investigate. The security team raised their weapons. Nyet, bad guests, Dmitri scolded. Thursday is friendly. See? She wants belly rubs. Thursday, all 6 legs and 300 kilograms of apex predator, rolled over and exposed her stomach with a hopeful whine. The guards lowered their weapons slowly, looking deeply confused. Would you like the tour? Jake offered. We've prepared a full presentation. Luna has slides. I have so many slides, Luna confirmed enthusiastically. Tivix looked like his 3 hearts were attempting to file for early retirement. This is highly irregular. I need to file a report with this doesn't make any sense. The acid rain alone should have. As if on cue, the sky opened up and the daily acid rain began. The inspection team scrambled backward toward their ship in a panic. Jake calmly opened an umbrella made from treated megafauna hide. It's really not that bad if you're prepared, he said over the hissing rain. Come inside. The house is weatherproof and we've got heating. They herded the increasingly bewildered inspection team into the main building. Inside, it looked like an actual home. Comfortable furniture made from local materials. Lighting powered by the lightning grid. A kitchen where something smelled absolutely incredible. That's tonight's dinner, Luna explained. Slow-roasted thunderbeast with root vegetables and a reduction sauce made from fermented murder plant nectar. Pairs beautifully with the local grain alcohol we've been brewing. You're brewing alcohol, Tivix said flatly. On a death planet. What else were we supposed to do? Jake spread his arms. The evenings get boring. Speaking of which, let me show you the highlights. He pulled up Luna's presentation on a salvaged monitor. The first slide showed a before and after, the 3 of them being dumped on the planet looking miserable, and then 3 months later looking healthy, tanned, and genuinely happy. Karzeth 9 presents unique opportunities for species willing to adapt. Jake narrated like a professional tour guide. The acid rain, while inconvenient, provides free water purification once neutralized. Next slide. Luna clicked through images of their collection system, the purification tanks, and Dmitri proudly holding a glass of crystal-clear water. The predatory flora, Jake continued, are indeed aggressive, but also surprisingly nutritious and easy to cultivate once you understand their biology. They make excellent fertilizer for earth crops, which thrive in the mineral-rich soil. More slides. The garden in full bloom, close-ups of vegetables that would make any farmer jealous, and Luna holding a tomato the size of her head. The lightning storms provide unlimited renewable energy through a simple collection grid. The toxic vents can be safely rerouted. And the megafauna Thursday chose that moment to press her face against the window, tongue lolling, looking like the galaxy's most dangerous golden retriever. Respond well to basic animal training and consistent feeding schedules. The security guard who'd eaten the cookies raised a tentacle. Can I pet the murder wolf? Comin'. After the presentation, Dmitri promised. Tivix was frantically taking notes, his 3 eyes darting between the presentation and his own files like he was watching his entire career dissolve in real time. This can't be High Arbiter. Quelix will never believe I need documented evidence. We have tons of evidence, Jake said cheerfully. 3 months of daily logs, environmental data, biological samples, and about 400 photos. Luna's been very thorough. I like documentation, Luna said happily. The technician had started recording everything, and Jake noticed he was also eyeing the cookies with interest. The question you should be asking, Jake said, leaning against the wall in what he hoped was a casual but confident pose, is not how we survived. It's how badly the Council screwed up their assessment of this planet. Tivix's color shifted to something that Jake's universal translator unhelpfully labeled as bureaucratic distress purple. The Council will need to review this, changes the entire classification of I don't have the authority to. He took a deep breath through whatever Thexians breathed through. I need to report this immediately. Sure thing, Jake said. But first, dinner. We insist. You came all this way, and Luna's cooking is legitimately incredible. Plus, the lightning show starts in about an hour and you haven't lived until you've seen it from the observation deck. I cannot possibly. Is rude to refuse hospitality, Dmitri said, firmly. And Thursday will be sad if you leave before belly rubs. Outside, Thursday pressed harder against the window and made a sound that was somehow both threatening and pathetic at the same time. Tivix looked at his team, at the settlement, at the impossible reality of 3 humans thriving on the death planet, and Jake watched something break in his bureaucratic soul. Maybe it was professionalism. Maybe it was his will to argue. Maybe it was just the smell of Luna's cooking. Fine, he said weakly. 1 meal. Then I'm filing the most detailed report in council history. That's the spirit, Jake said, grinning. Welcome to Karzeth 9. We think you're going to love it here. The report hit the Galactic Council's main servers at 0600 Standard Galactic Time, which was exactly when High Arbiter Quelix was enjoying his morning nutrition supplement and feeling generally satisfied with the universe. By 0602, he was choking on said supplement, while his aide frantically performed the Quelix maneuver, a species-specific Heimlich that involved squeezing 3 of his midsection sacs in rhythmic succession. By 0605, he was reading Inspector Tivix's report for the 3rd time, his eye stalks turning colors that didn't exist in standard medical charts. They did what? The report was thorough to the point of being insulting. Photographic evidence, video documentation, environmental readings, biological samples, even testimonials from the security team about how the murder wolf gave excellent cuddles, and the cookies were amazing. There were architectural diagrams of the settlement, energy output readings from the lightning grid, a full chemical analysis of the locally brewed alcohol that Tivix had apparently sampled, multiple times, for science. And worst of all, there was the tourist brochure, now officially validated by a council inspection team. The galactic news networks picked up the story within hours. Because of course they did. A death planet turned vacation. Destination was exactly the kind of absurd feel-good story that played well across multiple systems. Human criminals survive death planet. Start tourism business. Read the headline on Galactic News Network. Council's most lethal punishment now offers timeshare opportunities, proclaimed the Centauri Times. Are humans unkillable or just incredibly stubborn? Experts weigh in, asked Scientific Quarterly with what Quelix felt was unnecessary editorializing. The Galactic Advisor page for Karzeth 9 went from non-existent to 5 stars overnight. User reviews flooded in from the inspection team. Excellent hospitality. The lightning shows are spectacular. Would exile again. 5/5 stars. Inspector Tivix. The food was incredible and Thursday is the best girl. 5/5 stars. Security Officer Blix. I have never seen a more efficient renewable energy system. Also, the alcohol is very good. 5/5 stars. Technician Raxel. Within a week, Quelix's office was flooded with inquiries. Not complaints inquiries. Species from across the sector wanting to know if visits were actually possible. Adventurers seeking extreme vacation destinations. Scientists wanting to study how humans had adapted. Reporters requesting interviews. 3 different agricultural corporations wanted to know about the crop yields. 2 energy companies asked for details on the lightning collection system. And a wedding planning service inquired about destination exile ceremonies for couples seeking unique venues. Quelix called an emergency council session. This, he announced, his eye stalks quivering with barely controlled rage, is a disaster. We have sentenced criminals to the most hostile planet in the sector, and they have turned it into a profitable business venture. The entire concept of punishment through exile has been compromised. We are a laughingstock. Councilmember Praxis, a 4-armed Zentari with a reputation for pragmatism, raised one hand. With respect, High Arbiter, we are a laughingstock because we sentenced beings to a planet we had never properly assessed. The humans survived because they were creative and adaptable. That is not their fault. That is ours. They were supposed to die, Quelix sputtered, but they didn't. And now we have options. Praxis pulled up a holographic display. Option 1. We acknowledge our error, reclassify Karzeth 9, and deal with the embarrassment. Option 2. We double down, insist the humans are lying, and send another team to prove them wrong. Option 3. We negotiate. Negotiate? With criminals? With business people, Praxis corrected, who currently occupy a planet we classified as uninhabitable but which clearly has value? The humans have developed infrastructure, agriculture, and sustainable energy. They have assets. We have legal authority. Perhaps we can reach an arrangement. Quelix hated when praxis made sense. 2 weeks later, Jake stood on the porch, watching another ship descend. This one was marked with council diplomatic seals and looked expensive. They are here to negotiate, Dimitri predicted, scratching Friday behind her 6 ears. Good, Luna said. I prepared a presentation on our demands. We have demands now? Jake asked. Oh, honey, we've always had demands. I just wrote them down. The negotiations took 3 days and involved more legal jargon than Jake thought existed in the known universe. But in the end, the terms were surprisingly reasonable. Full pardons for their original crimes. Official ownership of the settlement and surrounding territory. Licensing rights for any tourism or commercial ventures on Karzeth 9. Compensation for emotional distress caused by attempted murder via negligent exile. That last one was Luna's addition, and Jake loved her for it. In exchange, they agreed to work with the council on proper planetary assessment protocols, provide consulting for future rehabilitation programs, and stop actively mocking Quelix in public. Broadcasts. Private mockery was still allowed. The story spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Humans, those strange, adaptable mammals from Sol 3, had turned a death sentence into a business opportunity. It became the kind of tale that inspired bar conversations, academic papers, and at least one terrible holodrama that Jake pretended didn't exist. But the real surprise came 6 months later, when the first batch of voluntary arrivals landed. Jake greeted them at the landing pad wearing his "I survived Karzeth 9 and all I got was this terrible t-shirt and a profitable business shirt." Behind him, the settlement had expanded. New buildings, expanded gardens, a proper guest house. "Welcome to Karzeth 9 Extreme Adventures," he announced to the group of 24 humans because of course they were all humans who'd paid actual money to visit the Death Planet. "I'm Jake Reeves, your guide. That's Luna Park, our head of operations and chef. And that's Dmitry Volkov, our chief engineer, and Thunderwolf Wrangler." A woman in the front raised her hand. "Is it true you were exiled here as punishment?" "Best thing that ever happened to us," Jake said cheerfully. "Now, who wants to pet a murder wolf?" Every hand went up. High Arbiter Quelix watched the news coverage from his office, his eye stalks drooping in defeat. On screen, humans were laughing, petting megafauna, standing in acid rain with umbrellas, and generally having the time of their lives on what was supposed to be an instrument of justice. His aide tentatively approached. "Sir, there's a message for you. From the humans." Quelix opened it with dread. It was a postcard. An actual, physical postcard showing the Karzeth 9 settlement at sunset with lightning painting the sky. On the back, in Luna's cheerful handwriting, "Wish you were here? Thanks for the opportunity. Business is booming. The wedding venue is almost complete destination. Exile ceremonies are surprisingly popular. We've named our best guest, Suite after you. It has a view of the acid rain. Come visit sometime. First drink is on us. Jake, Luna, and Dimitri. P.S. Thursday says hello." Quelix crumpled the postcard slowly in his manipulator appendage. Somewhere on Karzeth 9, he knew they were laughing. Jake stood on the observation deck that evening, watching the lightning storm with a group of tourists who were filming everything with the enthusiasm of people who'd never seen weather actively trying to kill them. "You know," Luna said, joining him with 2 cups of coffee-ish beverage, "when the council sentenced us here, I thought my life was over. And now? Now I run the best restaurant on a death planet. I've published 3 papers on local biology, and I have a waiting list for my cooking classes." She grinned. "I'm kinda glad we got caught smuggling that whiskey." Dimitri wandered over with Saturday and Sunday at his heels. "New guests are asking if they can extend their stay. Also, 3 people want to apply for jobs. And 1 couple wants to know if we do long-term leases." Jake looked at his crew, at the settlement they'd built, at the impossible paradise they'd carved out of a planet designed to kill them. The galaxy had tried to throw them away. Instead, they'd built something remarkable. "You know what?" he said. "Let's approve the applications. We could use the help." "Are we really going to become a legitimate colony?" Luna asked. "Why not? We've already done everything else wrong. Might as well keep the streak going." They clinked their cups together as the lightning danced overhead and the tourists oohed and ahed, and one enterprising human was absolutely trying to pet a toxic plant, despite Luna's explicit warnings not to. Somewhere in the galaxy, The Galactic Council was probably regretting every decision that led to this moment. But here on Karzeth 9, the death planet that wasn't, life was pretty damn good, and Jake couldn't wait to send Quelix another postcard.